Well, Patricia Visagie has been monitoring those court proceedings for the past 20 months, and we're live to her now on the North Gauteng High Court. Good afternoon, Patricia, and welcome to the PM News Desk.
Good afternoon.
We've reached the climax of what's become the most sensationalized criminal trial in our history, and you've been a part of it all from the very outset. How was the news of the sentencing received in court, especially by the Steenkamp and Pistorius families? Patricia.
Well, it certainly has been, an emotional roller coaster for the Steenkamp family, but also for the Pistorius family. And, in this situation, you would say that, both sides have actually lost. The Steenkamp family have lost their daughter, Riva Steenkamp, and that's forever. And of course, today, it means the Pistorius family have also suffered some sort of loss because they will not have access to the Paralympian Oscar Pistorius as they used to, as of course you would know that this day marks the beginning of a whole new journey for the athlete as he starts serving his prison term at the Kgosi Mampuru Correctional Facility, as you have already indicated earlier in the clip played. But of course, I think what we need to focus on now is the Paralympians, emotional reaction when he received the news that he will have to go to jail as part of his punishment, for killing his model girlfriend, Riva Steenkamp. And we're now going to talk to, the crime analyst, Laurie James, who will take us through the emotions of the Paralympian. Laurie, good afternoon and welcome once more.
Thank you, Patricia. Nice to be back.
Laurie, let's talk about what happened after the curtain fell. Now, you had the privilege to talk to some of the officials who escorted Oscar Pistorius down to the holding cells, and they told you about his emotional reaction. What exactly is it that they told you?
Well, it was very interesting. They said that he was calm, and that was what they focused on. They said there were no tears. He was calm. He was accompanied by his attorney, Brian Webber, for support, but there was no emotional outburst at all.
Right. Is this not unusual, taken into consideration that throughout the trial we saw an accused that cried repeatedly, even to the point where at some times he would vomit in court, and today when he receives this big news, no reaction whatsoever?
Absolutely. It would indicate one of two things. He may be medicated, and he's probably well briefed in that this outcome was possibly expected by his defense team, and that he was prepared emotionally for the outcome.
All right, his new journey has already started. He's already at the Kgosi Mampuru Correctional Facility. What is the process that needs to kick off?
Well, he'll be taken in officially. I'm sure there'll be paperwork and administrative functions. And then, as we know from the testimony we heard in court, within 6 hours, he has to have his health assessment. And I would imagine that would incorporate a psychological assessment where they would look at his immediate needs and risks. And, from the psychological point, also, a potential suicide risk, so that could be managed, or anything that would pop up from a psychological point of view as well.
Okay, let's talk about the two legal teams, the defense and the state. Has anybody won? Has anybody, risen a victor in this?
Well, firstly, it's a murder trial, so there's never really a victor. There's always a loss of life. And importantly, I think the defense did succeed in not getting a conviction on the murder trial, so getting the culpable homicide was possibly a little victory for them. And then the state did succeed today in an incarcerative sentence. Their defense failed. So I think everybody's gone home with the plate half full.
All right. Now, of course, our court also has the moral obligation to send a certain message to society that crime is unacceptable. Do you think that message was sent to society today?
I definitely think that the incarcerative sentence is a message. You know, it can be debated both ways, whether it was harsh enough given the circumstances of the crime, the severity and the gross negligence involved, and that will be a debate for time to come. But this can also be rectified on appeal going down the line.
Okay. We saw the ANC Women's League earlier asking the NPA to perhaps consider a possible appeal. Are there sufficient legal grounds for an appeal?
I believe there are. You know, I'm not a lawyer, so but there have been many errors, possible errors, pointed out by top-notch legal professors and so forth. So I think they're all going home now to study the judgment and then decide on the merits of the case, and they must make their appeals within the next 14 days. So we'll know if they've found what they need.
All right, just the last question. When will the Pistorius family, for the first time, go and visit, or you know, have the opportunity rather to go and visit the Paralympian in prison?
Well, I think that would depend on his uptake process and how he's adjusting to circumstance. But visiting hours are usually on a Sunday, so if not this Sunday, probably next Sunday.
All right, and that is crime analyst Laurie James, just giving us a legal analysis here at the Oscar Pistorius trial closing, and this of course means that you know, the rehabilitation process for the Paralympian will start officially today, and this is also perhaps the moment that both the families, the Pistorius family and the Steenkamp family, will start looking for a healing process. This will also perhaps bring some closure, especially for the Steenkamp family.
Thank you, Patricia. Well, that's the SABC's Patricia Visagie with crime analyst Laurie James coming to us from the steps of the North Gauteng High Court. Well, just as you've just heard, Oscar Pistorius sentenced to 5 years in prison for the culpable homicide of his girlfriend, Riva Steenkamp. As expected, loads of reaction pouring in now. Let's take a look at some of the tweets. Well, there you have it. Oscar Pistorius, 5 years, not bad for Oscar, better than 20. Smiley tweeting, 50 years, more appropriate. Zanella saying, Thokozila rules Oscar should be jailed for the culpable homicide of Riva Steenkamp, but could be released on house arrest after just 10 months. Selo saying he will be out before we know it. And it continues, Seth saying, cannot believe that Oscar's got 5 years only for killing an innocent, unarmed woman. Wow, only in South Africa where the government protects a woman. And finally, Von Dutch is tweeting, now we can move on with our lives.